For almost a year now, we have heard from so many so-called conspiracy theorists how the COVID vaccine is going to contain a microchip because the government wants to track you. Of course, we've heard that that's all crazy. And yet on Sunday, a new report from 60 Minutes includes an interview with a scientist from the Pentagon who says that there is now a COVID microchip that can be implanted under your skin in order to help you determine if you have COVID. Take a look at this.
We challenge the research community to come up with solutions that may sound like science fiction. And we're very willing to take chances with high-risk investments that may not work. But if they do, we can completely transform the landscape.
As dystopian as that may seem, get this. The research department that developed this microchip is the same one that actually has been funding gain-of-function research for the last 20 years. Yes, the same gain-of-function research that makes coronaviruses attach more aggressively to human cells. How do all these things interconnect? I'm Ben Swann. This is Truth in Media. Hey guys, welcome to the show. A lot to get to today, including this brand new report from 60 Minutes that very casually lays out the idea that the Pentagon has created a microchip to be implanted under your skin that can help you determine whether or not you have the symptoms of COVID. Of course, media acts like this is totally normal. Nothing to see here. But is it? We're going to break all that down in just a second. But before we do, a shout out to our sponsor for this episode, Create Tailwind and CreateTailwind.com. If you want to get a better control of your financial future, you've got to talk to Bob Burnett and Jim Oliver over at Create Tailwind. And by the way, they do more than just help you to understand something called infinite banking, the Austrian economic principle of how to bank on yourself. But they can also help you to understand how to secede from the banking system altogether. And if you want to learn more about crypto, listen, you got to talk to these guys because they are on the side of freedom. They are on the side of helping you to gain your financial and economic independence. Check them out today, createtailwind.com. All right, let's get to this frankly insane interview that took place on 60 Minutes over the weekend. It includes a scientist from the Pentagon who explains the new microchip that has been created to be implanted under your skin that will help to determine whether or not you have COVID. Watch this.
That tiny green thing in there, you put it underneath your skin, and what that tells you is that there are chemical reactions going on inside the body, and that signal means you're going to have symptoms tomorrow.
Wow. Dr. Matt Hepburn, an infectious disease physician and retired Army colonel, revealed that the microchip, which is not in widespread use outside the Defense Department, could detect COVID-19 in an individual well before a patient zero spawns an outbreak. Now, for its part, the Pentagon insists that no, this microchip won't track you. It's just a tiny sensor under your skin that tells you that there are chemical reactions going on inside the body, and that signal means that you are going to have symptoms tomorrow. Which then raises the question, then why would I ever need this microchip under my skin? It doesn't necessarily detect anything other than COVID-19. Does it detect cancer? Does it detect heart disease? Does it detect stroke? Right now, no. Because this microchip fits right into the narrative that we've been told for the past year, which that there is nothing more deadly, more heinous, and more dangerous to society and to you as an individual than this one virus called COVID-19 that has a 99.6% survival rate. And because of that one virus, you should have this microchip implanted under your skin in order to be able to determine whether or not you have symptoms. By the way, another way to figure out whether you have symptoms is to actually experience symptoms, because that's exactly your body telling you that you have a virus or you have a disease. That's precisely what symptoms are. Now, we could spend a long time debating about how ridiculous or unnecessary this microchip will be. And instead of doing that, though, I want to spend some time talking about DARPA, the actual organization, governmental agency that created this microchip in the first place, because that, I believe, is worth taking a look at. This microchip technology was developed by DARPA, or the government's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. By the way, DARPA is the same agency that has been researching and funding research on gain-of-function research for the last 2 decades. So what exactly is gain-of-function research? That is the research that has been conducted in order to determine whether or not you can take a simple coronavirus and make it attach better, in a more aggressive way, to human cells. Remember that coronaviruses, what makes them unique is they are viruses that begin in animals and then make the leap over to people. Back in 2002, when we had the SARS outbreak, one of the complaints, and yes, that is the correct term, one of the complaints that certain scientists working with DARPA had about SARS is that it did not attach very well to human cells. By the way, that is the reason that SARS itself self-eradicated. It didn't go away because of a vaccine or because of some medical breakthrough. It self-eradicated because it couldn't attach well to human cells. And so for the past 20 years, since 2002, scientists getting funding through DARPA have been working on something called gain-of-function research. Gain-of-function is simply the term that's used to describe manipulating a cell, manipulating a virus in order to make it attach more aggressively and attach better to human cells. As bizarre and insane as that sounds, that research has been going on now for over 20 years. It began here in the United States, and in 2014, when there were a lot of questions about that research and the ethics around it, whether or not this was too dangerous or whether or not this was essentially mad scientists running amok, the United States government decided it would no longer fund gain-of-function research. And so that research was not stopped, but offshored to China, including to where? Yes, the Wuhan lab of virology. And it was at the Wuhan lab where scientists continue to research how to make coronaviruses that could attach better to human cells. Now, everything I'm saying to you, you may or may not know this already, but let me just say this. None of this is theory. People will call these conspiracy theories. These are not theories. Every single thing I just said to you is laid out in documents for many years, because until COVID-19 showed up, none of this was particularly controversial or well known. In fact, there's a guy named Peter Daszak, and Peter Daszak actually did an interview in 2019, a year before COVID-19 came along, and he began explaining in that interview about gain-of-function research and how valuable it is, and his words, how easy it is to manipulate coronaviruses. Watch this.
Coronaviruses are pretty good. I mean, you're a virologist, you know all this stuff, but you can manipulate them in the lab pretty easily. It's just spike protein drives a lot of what happens with the coronavirus, zoonotic risk. So you can get the sequence, you can build the protein, and we work with Ralph Barrick at UNC to do this. Insert it into a backbone of another virus, and do some work in the lab.
And then you hear the name that Daszak mentioned there, Ralph Barrick. Ralph Barrick, who has worked through the University of North Carolina, who has worked through different agencies and specifically worked with DARPA, is one of the key figures in this attempt for gain-of-function research to better make coronaviruses that can attach to human cells. So let's come full circle here. Here's what we know about this whole story today. Beginning in 2002, DARPA, the government agency, began funding research into gain-of-function research and how to better attach coronaviruses to human cells. In 2014, that was offshored from the United States and to China and to labs like the Wuhan Virology Lab, which, by the way, received about $3.7 million in funding from the United States for this gain-of-function research. In 2020, a virus called COVID-19 comes along. It is a coronavirus that now attaches better to human cells, and despite the fact that it only has a 99.6% survival rate, the entire world's economies and structural systems are completely changed. The greatest transfer of wealth, the greatest transfer of personal freedoms and rights begins in 2020 and takes place as a result of coronaviruses. And now in 2021, we're being told that the Pentagon has come up with a way to implant a microchip under your skin that will, nope, not track you, nope, not harm you, nope, not allow you to lose even more freedom, but instead will simply tell you whether or not you have symptoms of COVID. Yes, the same agency that began this whole process of gain-of-function 20 years ago. So I leave you with that. Should they and can they be trusted? Really? Guys, thanks for watching this report. Please be sure to check out all of our reports. And if you're having trouble getting them because of social media censorship, which this report in and of itself, I'd be shocked if you're seeing it right now because it will be so heavily censored. The best way to get these reports sent directly to your mobile device is to send me a text at the number on your screen. We will send reports directly to your mobile device. It is right now the best way to get around that social media censorship. See you next time.